When you hop onto Splatoon 3, you might queue into a game and see this and think to yourself,
you should kill yourself now!
Everyone has weapons they hate playing against, whether you're playing casually or competitively. You might think the weapon is skillless, dog water, brain dead, whatever term you use to describe it, but weapons aren't any of those things. No weapon is truly broken or overpowered. Let's take a look at these two things, the Clash Blaster and the Bloblobber. These are two weapons that I despised in Splatoon 2. To me, you didn't need to aim with them. You could just see your opponent, look in their general direction, and get the pick. This mindset made fighting them extremely difficult when, in reality, these two things aren't good, like, at all. Same with the subscriber count, so if you could hit that subscribe button, it'll help us get to 20k. Same with Splatoon 1's Arrow Spray. It was a running gag that this thing was the garbage can because it had good paint and an insane fire rate. However, the same that applies to these two also applies to this. They aren't that good competitively. Of course, in solo queue, you can use whatever you want. Tier lists ultimately do not matter, but the notion that these things are overpowered needs to be ditched because it ultimately comes down to learning a weapon's weaknesses. Clash Blaster, for instance, has an insane blast radius, and if it catches you completely off guard, it can result in you dying or trading, but for that good radius, it has terrible paint and poor damage, meaning you need to play off of its weaknesses. While you might be playing a splatter shot, a weapon not typically meant to shark or play full-on Slayer, you can adapt your playstyle around specific players and weapons to successfully take down a player or weapon you're struggling against. The same can be said with the Bloblobber. It has good paint and range at the cost of poor damage and an extremely slow shot velocity. And for those of you who don't know what shot velocity is, it's the time it takes for the ammo that comes out of your weapon to hit its target. For example, when you fire a Nautilus, that thing essentially has hit scan because of its good shot velocity, because you basically hit where you aim every time you fire. But when you use Bloblobber, you often have to predict where the enemy will be because of the slow time it takes for the bubbles to go where you're actually aiming. With this in mind, if you keep your distance from a blob player and watch where their ridiculously slow and large ammo goes, you can quickly secure the kill on them. This mindset is much more beneficial and healthy to a player because you're actively learning and bettering yourself, rather than seething in your chair when one of these weapons gets on the enemy team. But what about weapons you'll see in competitive? With each new meta, whatever is good is considered skillless and people want immediate nerfs. And once again, this is an unhealthy mindset to have. Yeah, some things needed nerfs, such as Crab and Jet, but they don't need to be nerfed into the ground. These things are still good, but they aren't necessary to run anymore. The same can be said about Zuka. Yeah, you can still insta-pop it and get value, which is stupid, but it's also wildly inconsistent when you kill someone because point-blank shots sometimes have the enemy walking away with 0 damage. But no, it doesn't need to be nerfed into the ground, just reworked a bit. Now, let's take a look at some top-tier options that competitive players complain about. Tri-Slosher, Nautilus, Stamper, and 52 don't need crazy nerfs either. These weapons are good, but just because they're good doesn't mean they're skillless. Yeah, these things are fast-killing two-shot weapons, but one of them has a slow fire rate and poor ink efficiency, and the other has shitty paint and poor range. Play around these things. You can shark, use specials, bomb them out, or fight them with a teammate. There are multiple different ways to get around every weapon in this game, but in my opinion, tilting will get you nowhere. Now, it's not to say certain weapons don't need to be nerfed, but a healthier option would be to make the weaker weapons stronger and give them a chance, while also maybe weakening some of the stronger options. Just, you know, not too much. Looking at this zone's only tier list from Chara, a lot of the weapons C tier and below are down here simply because they can't keep up. Why run any of the D tier burst fire weapons when both squeezers are considered top tier with better main weapons and kits? Why run this jet weapon when this one exists, or these Brellas when these two exist? There will always be weaker weapons than what's on top, but the range between certain weapons is mind-boggling. Whether it's because of the main weapon itself or the kits given to the weapon balancing is sort of all over the place. We've got Stamper, both with a powerful main weapon and kit, and then we've got the Dapple Doolies, both with a weak main weapon and equally weak kits. S-Blast and Roller have one of the worst kits in the game, along with one of the best kits in the game. Stamper can kill from afar extremely quickly, yet the Dynamo Roller does 40 damage from its max range and is so slow that it can't even kill in 3 hits because the enemy can heal. Main weapons alone are kinda fine with a few oddities, but then we add kits into the mix and the balance from the best to the worst goes from
Ooh, that's kind of small.
2.
That's quite big.
That's sort of a joke, but the point is, the balance of the game is kind of messy, but nothing is overpowered. I'd make the argument that more weapons are underpowered than overpowered, but what could be done to fix this issue? Well, that's where next week's video comes into play.